Oh shit! Actually,
Do the
I forgot
words
to bring
no
that
Russian mean anything to you? Can video games cause people to behave violently? Is
No
Call of Duty a
Russian,
government psyop being funded by American taxpayers as well as multi-billion-dollar snack conglomerate Frito and
possibly.
Pepsi? These are just a few of the important questions that we're going to be talking about today. In another step to make the countless hours I spent playing Call of
The bat. I have fucking opinions. Do I think Call of Duty is a psyop? Yes, 110%. I think Call of Duty has been a psyop to try to get young men to join the military and think that doing military tactics is fun. And I think it has been one of the most effective psyops that the US government has ever put out. So let's let him get into the video.
talking about several of the conspiracies as well as the legacy and controversy of the Modern Warfare trilogy. Of course, my retrospective of the original trilogy is over on the main channel, so check that out if you're
Oh,
interested. But
my
for now, we're going to
that's
go ahead
four
and get
hours. I'm
into
not
it. But
fucking
as
watching that.
always, thank you for watching.
Not in one
Call of
sitting,
Duty is a massive
anyways.
franchise that has grown beyond simply being a game and is now more of an entity or an
I was gonna say it's a franchise, like he said at the beginning, like Coke or Pepsi. Like I'd say it's one of the biggest gaming franchises ever.
idea. But how did it get where it is today? Well, to answer that question, I first want to talk about the branded partnerships that helped it get there. So let's take a walk down memory lane. Over the years, one of the most active brands involved in video game sponsorships has been PepsiCo, who owns popular chip manufacturer Frito-Lay and soda brands like Mountain Dew.
I don't know why. I never put that together. I know that PepsiCo owns Frito Lay. I know that PepsiCo owns Mountain Dew. I know Mountain Dew does regular fucking Call of Duty EXP drops. How did I not realize that Call of Duty does regular fucking yeah, how did I not realize that fucking Activision and PepsiCo were in bed together? Like genuinely. Like this is an actual eye opener for me.
Game Fuel, which was a limited
Yeah,
time
yeah, I
collection of usual
fucking love
berry
Game Fuel,
citrus
by the way.
that debuted in partnership with the upcoming Xbox 360
Oh
platform.
man, those
The
are the
initial
days.
promo was a campaign called Every 10 Minutes, where customers would collect codes on the bottle caps of Mountain Dew or PepsiCo products and use the currency from those codes to bid on an as yet unreleased Xbox 360, which was available every 10 minutes.
I'm a winner.
So, like eBay,
That dude was definitely not a winner. I can tell you that with full confidence right this moment. He was not a winner. I can't remember if I tried to sign up for that competition. I know I did a couple of competitions back in the day for fucking games and stuff like that to try to win like sweepstakes and stuff like that. I actually got a Wii, I believe, through the Pepsi points program at one point.
with fake money invented by Mountain Dew. Effectively, it is a currency only Mountain Dew made that you can only spend on things Mountain Dew wants you to spend them on. Why does that sound familiar? By 2007, Mountain Dew re released its Citrus Cherry Game Fuel flavor in stores as a promotion for Halo.
See, I remember Halo 3 dropping with three different flavors. It dropped with Code Red, it dropped with the fucking the voltage. No, was it voltage? Thought it was like it was the blue one. There was the red, the blue, and then this one as well. I thought I could have sworn it was all three, and then you voted for which one stayed.
3, followed
Oh, yep, he's
by a new
talking
blue
about it.
flavor for World of Warcraft in 2009. And in 2011,
Okay,
Citrus Cherry made yet
maybe I
another
was wrong
comeback
then.
for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. This was the
I
first
don't
time Game
remember
Fuel
that
bottles
one.
came with in game bonuses, including the now famous double XP codes, where players could earn twice the experience awards for a set amount of time, helping them level up, unlock weapons, and other in game rewards much faster. This is one of those things that you simply had to be there. I cannot express to you the excitement of you and all of your friends in middle school getting Call of Duty, and then you beg your parents.
Genuinely, you did. You had to fucking be there. Like I remember, I was. This is fucking wild, actually. I was on a camping trip actually, and me and my friends came, like they all came with me, and we both did camping and glamping. So like my aunt and everybody would be in the camper, and there would be the camper, and it would have electricity and everything else like that. um and then like us kids and everything would actually set up our tents and actually like put a fire up and like actually camp and everything. um I remember, is my stream actually going? Give me a second. I don't know if I'm live or not right now.
Parents on the way home to
Maybe. Oh yeah, I am. Okay. Anyways though, like what I was getting at, um fucking so we would be camping and everything, and I remember I was camping and I brought my Xbox 360 because I knew there would be power and everything. And I remember specifically setting up a small TV and setting up my fucking Xbox 360 and having Halo 3 after it just came out. I think it came out like a month beforehand. And we got all the fucking Mountain Dews that had come out for the fucking Halo 3 and everything, and fucking sat there drinking soda and playing Halo 3 just all goddamn night while we're supposed to be camping, like supposed to be making s'mores and everything else. No, we're glued to that fucking game.
stop by the gas station so you could go find the Mountain Dew bottles that gave you the codes to level up quicker. It truly was a magical time.
It really
Now no one
was.
actually owns anything.
It
It's all
really, it was
subscription services,
entirely a
pay to
different time.
win cycles and season passes, but this is supposed to be a happy video, so I'll stop. Game
Yeah.
Fuel returned
Yeah,
for
let's not
other
talk about
promos
all
over
that.
the years, including Call of Duty Advanced Warfare in 2014, Black Ops 3 in 2015, and again in 2021 for Vanguard.
See, I
and
didn't know
Warzone.
about all these ones,
Doritos
but then
ran
again,
two
I
editions,
jumped
including
out of the
2014,
fucking
where
shooter space
in-game
when
gear
like
could be
modern.
obtained through a
I
reward
think it was
system,
what,
also in
Black
game.
Ops
It
2
featured supply drops
was when
and
I jumped
Doritos and
out.
cosmetics like weapons and tactical gear. Oh yeah, I forgot about supply drops. That was a whole other headache.
Supply
But in
drops.
hindsight, I feel like they weren't as bad as some of the stuff we have now, because with supply drops you at least get to keep whatever's in there, and it's sure it's like a lottery system, so it can be addictive, and that's not good. But I feel like as long
I
as you
didn't know
could
anything about
unlock
this.
enough stuff to get supply drops in game, they weren't that bad. It was the microtransactions to buy them that I feel like became the problem. Even
I didn't know anything about this. I didn't know that they had a supply drop system. Interesting. This is a
auto
sneaky
manufacturer
fucking way to make
Chrysler
money.
got in on the action, as Jeep created multiple in 2012. About 2,000 of the Black Ops editions were made, and 15
Yeah, I
of them
did
were
know
Modern
about this
Warfare
actually.
3
I
editions.
remember when
Which I kid you
they
not, there was a
advertised
guy in the
this.
town I
My
grew up
aunt
who
thought
had
about
one of
getting
the
one.
Modern Warfare 3 Jeeps. Every time I saw it out at like Subway, it was the coolest thing ever. But of course, the promotions didn't end at just products, as Call of Duty had some very famous commercials. If you watched any TV during the late 2000s and 2010s, you likely caught at least some of Activision's ad campaigns for the Call of Duty games. The company dumped hundreds of millions of dollars into promotional materials, including several star-studded commercials featuring celebrities and regular Joes engaged in military combat. When Treyarch did the ad campaign for Black Ops with the "There's a hero in all of us" mantra, they
Oh, I remember that fucking campaign. That wasn't a bad one. It was kind of
pulled a lot of
cringe,
celebrity
but
performances into their
like
trailer. Robert Downey Jr.
you
powered
were
up the
fucking hyped for the
X-22.
game,
Kobe
so you
Bryant,
looked
rest in
past it, you
peace,
know.
ran through a battlefield firing a rifle. And Jimmy Kimmel and Jonah Hill fired RPGs as nurses, a hotel concierge, a deli worker, and even a 10-year-old girl all engaged in warfare around.
Yeah. So it made you feel like you're playing with the star. Sorry about the ads again. Just gonna have to deal with them till fucking.
There's even a commercial where my friend Kyle, or as you know him, FPS Russia,
Oh
made an
yeah.
appearance. They knew exactly how to hook their fan base, and it was kind of nice when all the commercials and advertisements
I forgot they
just
did that
taken
shit.
away, and I'd be okay with it. However, I think one thing that Call of
Man,
Duty did
it's been so long it feels like so long since like the gaming space was actually in touch with gamers. Like actually. Cuz it that is probably the most fan service like ignore all the other like celebrities and everything else, but like having an actual YouTuber that is promotes the content and is adjacent to the content is way more fan servicey and way more like, hey guys, we're listening to you, we know too, than probably anything we've gotten in a long, long time.
That was social for the time, and is one of the most memorable things about the entire series to me is Call of Duty Elite. Riding the
I don't
momentum of the
what
Modern Warfare and Black Ops franchise's
I don't remember what that
popularity,
is.
Activision, now Activision Blizzard, created Call of Duty Elite, which was a short-lived online service available for 2 years between
Where's your
2011 and
setup?
2013. Or as comedian TJ Miller
My
explained in a
setup
voiceover for an
is
ad-promoting
on my
service, quote,
chest. I
Call of
was
Duty
gonna
Elite
say
is
I'm
like if organized
currently
sports and social
here, I'll
network.
pause it. I'm currently laying in bed because I'm bedridden right now. My back fucking went out on me, so I figured while I'm laying here I'd just react to videos. So yeah, that's why I'm all laid up like this.
Had a baby, and they gave that baby a
Also,
flamethrower. Elite
if
offered
it
free features like detailed analysis of multiplayer matchups,
if the
including
video's
heat
glitchy and
maps and
everything
advanced
else, it's
player
also because I'm on a
statistics,
shitty
the ability to
laptop, and
share
I'm
custom
just
weapon
sorry
loadouts,
about
and
that.
even a social
I'm
networking
trying here,
platform.
man.
But it also had a paid premium tier, which came with DLC and granted players access to exclusive competitions where they could win any number of prizes. There was truly nothing like it at the time. These tournaments were
Interesting.
really cool. So anyone who had
I didn't
the
know anything
Elite
about
Premium
this.
membership, for
I
one, they
probably
also
would have
got
tried
access to
so
like
much
DLCs
harder
and in-game
at
bonuses like
fucking
custom
playing.
skins and stuff like that. But they would also have these rolling tournaments. So every week or every other week, there would be a tournament around a specific game mode, like capture the flag or
Yeah, I
domination. And
genuinely didn't know
anyone who
this.
signed up for the tournament and then just went to Modern Warfare 3, at least when I was playing, it was Modern Warfare 3. I think one of the Treyarch entries was involved with Elite as well. But again, Modern Warfare 3 was the main one I remember. After you register, you just go
That's
Modern
just
Warfare.
wild because I played Modern Warfare 3 like a lot. I didn't play it as much as Modern Warfare 2, but I played it a lot, and I don't remember ever seeing anything about this.
3, play that game mode, and all of your stats would
Maybe I was too
go
busy playing fucking
automatically over to the
Skyrim.
Elite leaderboard. Is based on whoever got the highest scores on the leaderboard. And some of these prizes were really cool. A lot of the time it would be like in-game stuff or maybe a poster or something. But I remember one time, like one of the first tournaments I played, the deal was like you got a skateboard and a helmet and like a little
You got an actual skateboard for beating people in Modern Warfare 3? Like for real?
like a tiny half pipe or something like that. And I didn't even skate, but I really wanted the Call of Duty skateboard. And
What?
I probably
Wait, for real? That's insane. Like you never see anything like that from like any type of developer at all anymore. That's wild. Like this is so like I can't believe we don't have shit like this anymore. Like this is
paid
even more
twice like
incentivizing than if they offered
2,000
a
or
cash
something. I
prize to
wasn't
me,
even
you
close,
know?
but it was really cool at the time. I'm also pretty sure some of the Jeeps, or at least some additional Jeeps, were part of the rewards for these Elite tournaments. It was
I
a
could see
huge deal,
that.
and again, I don't remember anything
Especially
like
if
that
like they
existing
didn't sell
around then.
enough,
It
they
was
probably
very
had them left
innovative for
over.
2011. Now, most
Write it off
memorably to
as
me, or
advertising and
probably
the business expense.
unmemorable if you're a normal person, the paid tier of Elite had a video streaming service called Elite TV. It was a streaming service for shows that were entirely related to Call of Duty.
Oh, for real? Oh shit. Sorry about the ads yet again. One day I'll get YouTube Premium. That's kind of cool though, actually.
The service had a program called Friday Night Fights, which versus Navy, firefighters versus police, even
Oh,
NBA
that's pretty
players like
fucking.
Dwight
I think I
Howard
did hear
versus
about this
John Wall.
actually.
There's also a
I
digital
think I did
series
actually
called
hear about
NoobTube,
this.
based on the nickname for the grenade launcher throughout the Modern Warfare series. Or, you know, the way losers played Call of Duty. Hosted by Andrew Santino.
Hey, wait a minute. The noob tube is fucking integral to the culture of Call of Duty, because then you knew who the losers were. While they might be losers, they were the ones having the most fun. Let's be honest. Because it was me. I was having the most fun. I was the loser.
Yes, the comedian from the Bad Friends podcast, NoobTube was a clip very similar to Tosh.0 or Ridiculousness, only with user-submitted clips from Call of Duty matchmaking instead of YouTube videos. Santino would comment and make jokes as the clips played. So
That's
here's a
kind of
fun
cool,
fact.
actually.
When I was
I didn't know
12, I
about
really
that
wanted
one.
to be on NoobTube. So I made a clip in Modern Warfare 3's theater mode and submitted it to NoobTube. And I didn't know this at the time, but any submissions would get posted to a YouTube channel, I guess. Like, they would get backed up there for storage sake. And I never made it onto the show, but that clip is still up on YouTube to this day.
That's cool.
Now, it's not a good clip,
The
but I
Wendigo,
was 12 and desperate, and this
the
was the
fucking
coolest thing I
Wendigo YouTube crossover you didn't know about.
could do. There was even a series called Cocked Hammers, which starred Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, and Eddie. The entire series takes place in-game with avatars who
That's an
resemble the
interesting
cast
setting.
as they wreak havoc on the digital world around them. So yes, Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, Justin Theroux, some massive stars. You have like half the cast of Arrested Development just for this Call of Duty streaming service. And they're still up on YouTube. You can go watch them. They only ever made 2 episodes, to my knowledge.
I might
And
go
they
watch
are
this.
so cheesy and
That
such a
sounds-
relic of the time. It is
That
fantastic.
sounds great,
All of this
actually.
to
I
say
want to
that
go
Call
check
of
that
Duty
out.
was and still is a massive, culturally significant franchise that benefited from an absolute boatload of money being poured into it. Again, if you're younger or didn't play Call of Duty in its heyday, it may be confusing why a series that is as divisive as it is now is as popular as it is. But just going off of how huge the
Back in the day, if you had friends and your friends played video games, doesn't matter if you were like the RTS kid, it didn't matter if you were the RPG kid, it didn't matter if you were the Sims kid, it didn't matter if you were like you only played shooters, like you were the Halo guy, it didn't matter what you were in gaming, we all met on this battlefield together. We all came together and we met here to settle the scores. Like, this is where you came for that. Like, instead of getting on your phone for that couple seconds of dopamine, like Candy Crush and whatnot, this is what you went to for those couple seconds of dopamine. Because you were able to jump in, play 10 minutes, fast action, fast fun, get out. That was it. And everybody knew it, and everybody was about it. And that's just why it was so good, because it played well. You had lots of customization. Like it was starting to go somewhere with the fucking level system and everything. It's too bad it got fucking replaced by battle passes and such, and like skins and everything. I really wish we would have like a system like that back in again. But
series was back
yeah,
then,
I'll let him
it makes
continue.
sense as to why it's continued for so long. But all of that cultural significance doesn't come without some backlash, because it has also faced its share of criticism. Given the history of video game controversies, usually with violence as the centerpiece, this isn't terribly surprising. After all, video games have been accused of being unnecessarily violent since as early as 1976. The game Death Race, a coin-operated arcade game founded
As long as there have been Karens, as long as there have been upset mothers, as long as there have been pastors that have touched little boys, as long as video games have been in the same ecosystem as those individuals, video games will always be in controversy. They have always been in controversy, and they will always be in controversy in the future. Until we get rid of those groups or video games cease to be, whichever happens first, I know which one I prefer. Oh, we're just going to always have this level of controversy.
amusement parks had players controlling a car to run over gremlins, which basically just look like human stick figures.
God.
Is she texting someone behind your back?
No.
The game attracted the outrage of the National Safety Council, with some demanding it to be removed from parks. But I'm sure, as many of you know, the most famous video game controversy came in 1992 with Mortal Kombat. With graphic, photorealistic for the time, player-controlled characters ripping out each other's backbones,
So
snatching body
fucking
parts
cool,
out of
by the
faces,
way.
and so forth,
Like,
the
thank
furrow
God
over
they were
Mortal
able to cross
Kombat's
that line.
fatalities was intense. The outrage even led to Senate hearings, led by Joe Lieberman
Like,
and
video
Herb
games
Kohl, who
being
discussed games like Mortal
uncensored has
Kombat
been
and what
one
they
of the
viewed as
best
potentially
things, like,
damaging effects
fucking
on
ever.
children and adolescents.
For
The
fun,
release of more
anyways.
controversial titles like Wolfenstein and Doom, which were some of the earliest first-person shooters, fully put the player in the perspective of the character on screen, making the violence feel more immersive and personal than ever
Yay, everyone
before.
gets to
I
do
know what you're
that.
seeing on screen is incredibly
about
tame
that.
compared to what we have now, but this was a big deal at the time. The outcry of these games became so extreme that the games industry decided to regulate
Which
its
is
own by
wild. We gotta fucking regulate that. Like, we can't let that go on anymore. Holy shit. How did you go on this long?
implementing the ESRB, or Entertainment Software Rating Board. Today uses a content rating similar to the MPA, formerly known as the MPAA, which assigns ratings to theatrical movies. Despite the self-regulation, the controversies continued. There was the 1998 release of Grand Theft Auto, which set the precedent for every GTA that would come afterwards to anger parents who didn't want their children doing things.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say this was the one that everybody knew that, like, gaming was always going to be controversial. It didn't matter. This is the one that proved it. Like, before, it was kind of like, okay, maybe people will calm down. This is the one that, like, they knew we were going to be issues. We were going to be issues, and we're always going to be issues.
It's like killing prostitutes, stealing cars, shooting at the police, which, seems ridiculous to me. You don't know what your child is. You don't know what they're going to be one day. You don't know what skills they're going to need to have. Just
Yeah, who's to say they're gonna fucking run somebody over? You don't know that. I was gonna say, who's to say that them running someone over wasn't justified? Like, who knows? You don't know the context. Who are you to judge them beforehand?
let them figure out their own path. But things took an especially dark turn in 1999 when two seniors at Columbine High School.
Also, imagine not trusting your kids so much that you think that them witnessing something like that is going to make them want to replicate it. Like, genuinely. Like, imagine that. Like, you're like, oh shit. Like, yeah, I know my kid's gonna be a serial killer if he sees someone get murdered and, like, in a simulation. Like, oh my god. The logical leap. It just makes no sense. Oh shit. Oops.
I swear this is going somewhere. At Columbine High School in Colorado.
Oh yeah, this was a
fire on
big one.
classmates,
I was gonna
killing
say
12
they
people,
directly
injuring
blamed
23
you.
others, and perhaps spawning a new, continuing wave of similar violent incidents around the United States for decades to come. As authorities investigated the shooter's background, they found, among other things, that the teens had created several custom levels in Doom and Duke Nukem meant to mimic the layout of school. This poured kerosene on the already hot subject of video game violence across the country.
Okay, yeah, I said GTA was the one. No, yeah, he's dead on. He's dead on. This is the one that, like, started the tire fire that's been burning ever since. Yeah, yeah, I'd say that was probably the one.
With some people discussing outright bans of such games. Several of the Columbine victims' families filed a federal lawsuit against 25 different media companies, including game developers, for their role in the death of the victims.
Damn, Nintendo
While
got
the
wrapped
suit
up
was
into that?
dismissed years later, the conversations continued. And as technology
That's
continues to advance,
insane.
a
Just
lot
because
of
they
people
put
wonder
fucking Doom
if
on the
the rise in
N64.
graphics and alternate reality or VR games may contribute in a higher level of violence.
So wait, did it hold up?
Technology continues to advance, a lot of people wonder if the conversations
His
continue.
name down lawsuit included. Wait.
federal lawsuit against 25 different media companies, including game developers, for their role in the death of the victims. While the suit was dismissed years later,
Okay,
conversations
dismissed. That's
continued.
why it doesn't
And
hold up.
as technology
Okay,
continues to
okay,
advance, a lot
okay.
of people
I was
wonder
gonna
if
say
the
if
rise
that
in
passed through, then
graphics
that
and
means technically
alternate reality
any
or VR games
console
may contribute at a
or
higher level.
like company that publishes a game that may be used to simulate real violence would then be held accountable. That would be insane. Like that would actually be insane.
Level of violence as people play violent games in these settings. And with that setting in mind, we of course go to Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. The first Modern Warfare title was developed by Infinity Ward and published by Activision, and was released in 2007 for Xbox 360, the PlayStation 3, and the PC. Modern Warfare was a notable departure from the franchise's usual World War II setting. The game was a breakout success, winning multiple Game of the Year awards and selling 7 million copies in the first 3 months alone.
Yeah. That one, like, I remember it being alright. I think I got it for the Wii. I don't think I actually got
And
it for
most
any of the
importantly, of
consoles.
course, it
He's
conversation of
talking about
video game violence, probably
no,
due
I
to its
didn't really
size and
play
presence. One of the first levels
Modern
of Modern
Warfare
Warfare
1.
1, the coup, specifically level 3, the same level that takes the player through the opening credits, is a largely cinematic experience in which the player controls the president of Saudi Arabia, who is captured by opposing forces during a coup. In the level, you watch through the president's POV as his supporters are executed by opposition forces in the middle of the street. At the very end of this level, you, the player, playing as President Al-Fulani, is executed on international television by these forces. Now, I would argue that this highly impactful moment was important for the story and the development
And the
of
shock
video games as
value.
a genre, and
And the
impactful
shock
to a lot of
value.
young people when it comes to
And the
like how
shock
violence can be
value.
used as an effective medium in storytelling. But
And
parents
the
didn't care
shock
about that. They
value.
just cared because, gross. That wasn't even the only controversial thing in the first Modern Warfare.
Gonna say that the main reason it was put into the game was because of all those other reasons he stated, but it was mainly because of the shock value, because they knew the shock value was going to get the Karens talking.
I remember the nuke segment in Shock and Awe and Aftermath getting a ton of heat.
Well, that's true as well, also. Not only did it get the Karens talking, but it also got gamers talking. Oh shit, did you know that, like, that part at the beginning? Holy shit, you got executed? That was wild, man. Like, I never thought, like, that was insane.
Set about the mission where Captain Price goes to shoot Zakhaev back in Chernobyl, all guilty. Assassination, or like the fact that they were going to assassinate instead of being in an open conflict, that made people mad. It's so interesting because like old World War II games never got this criticism, but as soon as you bring it into the modern age and the characters you're playing as start using guns that the people on the news have, everyone gets afraid. It's like when it's old, when it's World War II, they're able to disconnect in their mind warfare then and warfare now, but as soon as what they're looking at in the video game looks like the same thing they look at on
the exact thing he's describing right now, Rick and Morty captured fucking beautifully in their when they were escaping from the fucking face huggers, and instead of performing a 9/11, they performed a Pearl Harbor, and somehow that was supposed to be better because it was an older tragedy. Like, what? It's still a tragedy where thousands of people died. How? What?
news, it's hands off. Call of Duty kept up this trend. 1 year later, a group of unarmed enemy soldiers to complete an objective. Or at least that's how most people saw it. It's during the mission Eviction. I'm pretty sure if you just walk up to them, the other Russians will kill them. Alternatively, you can light them on fire. However, after World at War, Infinity Ward was back at the helm, ready to make Modern Warfare 2.
I don't know why that got me so hard. Also,
And it seemed that, playing as the president of Saudi Saudi Arabia and had to do the most controversial thing
Oh, that
Call
was
of Duty
good.
has ever been a part of. You know it, No Russian. No Russian takes place in a fictional airport in Moscow, Russia. The
Oh,
airport itself
yeah.
being named the Zakhaev International Airport based on the villain from the first game, where the player, an undercover CIA agent, helps several Russian gunmen massacre dozens of civilians at the airport.
Yep.
The attack is meant to appear as if carried out by
I
Americans.
remember
So as the
this.
level begins and the player character
Was
rides
this in
up
the
an
first
elevator with
one?
the other gunmen, the game's antagonist,
I thought this was in the second one.
Vladimir Makarov, says,
Did I hear him
"Remember,
wrong?
no Russian." A step in executing a false flag on the United States. The elevator doors open and the Russians step out, open fire on innocent civilians. Using machine guns, rifles, and grenades, people run, hide, and scream. It all feels very real. And although a small handful of security and police fire back, they're no match for your powerful weaponry. It's a
Yeah,
massacre.
I was gonna
All the
say, it's
while,
for the
some
shock
people
value.
cower in corners, others try to drag their wounded friends to safety, only to be met by a hell of gunfire. As the player, you wield a light machine gun and are encouraged to, quote, follow Makarov's lead, but otherwise are given no other instruction. After
Yeah, I
going
was
through
gonna
the
say, you
terminal
don't
and
have to shoot
slaughtering
the
a
people if you
countless
don't
number
want
of
to.
innocents, the crew makes it to an ambulance at the loading docks at the far end of the airport. Before the van can take off, however, Makarov shoots you in the chest, revealing that he knew you were an undercover American the whole time. Your dead body will further fuel the notion that the United States was indeed behind this attack, playing right into the villain's hand and launching the world into World War III.
Oh, damn.
Now,
okay.
in my Modern Warfare retrospective, I talk about how I think this level is very important. It does justice to a touchy subject. It is a powerful motivator for the rest of the events of.
No, a hell of a setup. Not only do you get the initial shock value of literally having the player shoot up an airport, but then you have the twist that you're killing the player character, and then the twist that because the player was there in the first place is going to further fuel the villain's plan is not only genius on a marketing level and a possible gameplay level, but a story level in general, because now you've got me hooked and engaged.
Of the trilogy. Parents who were afraid of their kid getting access to a game that contained blood or words like dance might as well have been the Antichrist.
Yeah,
Something you may not
100%.
know is that while the level's content might have caused controversy, even if it had been revealed at launch, the issue was further exacerbated by the fact that gameplay video of only this level leaked onto several sites ahead of time, including on YouTube and a
Oh, see, I
user-submitted
didn't know
section
that
of
part.
CNN's website. So
I didn't know
people
that
saw
part.
No
I
Russian
remember
before
playing
Modern
it.
Warfare 2 even came out. This
Oh,
stirred
it was Modern
conversation
Warfare
and
2.
speculation
Okay,
on the
okay, it
level
was the
and
second
the
one.
game as a whole. A full month before the game's official release, with most gaming publications running stories on the footage and many traditional news outlets covering it as well. I have distinct memories of thinking it was really cool to see Call of Duty on the news stations my dad watched, only to immediately get berated about how violent and awful.
Oh, I fucking been there. Man, when you see the thing you love on the news and you think you have an opportunity to finally like make a connection with your fucking parent or like to finally like get that level of relatability that even they want, like because they've been taking you to do shit that they like to do so that way you can have something to bond over, and you think you have that opportunity for it to only turn into a lecture. Woo! That's an eye opener. Let me tell you, talk about never talking to your parents about what you like again.
Call of
Exactly.
Duty individual was ever identified as leak. And while it would have been a very risky decision on the part of Infinity Ward and or Activision, if the level was intentionally leaked, well, it worked. I mean, the national
Oh,
conversation
100.
absolutely exploded.
Let me tell you, it was intentionally leaked. Like I said at the beginning of this, I believe Call of Duty is a psyop, and I believe it's a very effective one. and it has used controversy to its favor.
Voted over the controversy, giving the game several
Like
weeks.
most good video games, by the way. I want to preference this. Most good video games use controversy to their favor to sell more copies.
Worth of free press and cementing the franchise's status as one of, if not the, most culturally relevant titles of the 2000s. Ask a random guy on the street to name five video games, Call of Duty is going to be one of them. And I guarantee you it wasn't that way before 2009. If they did leak it, I mean, it would make
110%.
sense. Other than the free press, I'm sure a lot of people who weren't familiar with the series wanted to buy the game just to see what the context of that level could possibly be.
And the context is fucking good, too. It's not like
everything is being watched from the basement and controlled
they
from
heard
the
me.
basement.
They heard
What
me.
were you doing there?
I was targeting certain individuals.
No.
Especially since Call of Duty at the time was... Activision confirmed that the footage was in fact legit, adding credibility to the theories that they allowed the leak in the first place. Hey, Activision,
Well, yeah, 'cause they
we
put it
saw
out
the
there.
leak and
Of
we
course
just
it's
wanted to know if the airport terrorist attack is legit. Yes. Oh, okay. Is there anything else you want to tell us about? Goodbye. But would a publisher ever do something like that? Well, it's certainly possible. I mean, for example, I mentioned Grand Theft Auto earlier. And as far as mainstream games go, it's probably the most controversial of all time. And it sits at the top of numerous record books in every category. The fact that Activision had a response ready to go, ran a ton of trailers that played a lot of No Russian.
They put it out there. Come on. Like, come on.
Footage and benefited immensely from the publicity makes it seem possible. Now, what were some... Well, if you want to know what the agencies that pay for and cover forever wars do when you start to imply that innocent people may get caught up in those wars on occasion, to give a short list, The Mirror accused the game of making light of terrorist atrocities, which I would argue it was doing the opposite, but whatever.
I would agree with Windigoon on that one. It was definitely doing the opposite. If anything, it was putting a light on how terrorists can be manipulative to even greater extents than we can even anticipate.
And if you think it was, the development team seemed to be just as, if not more, divided on the inclusion of No Russian. The level polarized the studio.
I could see why. I could definitely see why, because I could see at that point in time when it, like, controversy sells, yes, but with the political space at the time and how terrorism was viewed, especially then, after fresh after 9/11, and well, not fresh, but it was like fresher than it is now, anyways. I could see why people were like, bro, you're going to end our career if we do this. And then someone else going, no, I'm going to start it.
The team split on their feelings regarding how far was too far. Some wanted the player to play as a police officer attempting to stop the carnage. And Mohammed Alavi, the level's primary designer, said that initially the player was supposed to take out Makarov and the other gunmen before engaging in a firefight with armed soldiers in the airport. But according to Alavi, this made the level feel just like a typical Call of Duty mission, cheapening the message and making the whole thing feel gimmicky. I mean, if you're going to make a level that deals with something as serious as a terrorist attack, then it's a little disingenuous to have your player character swoop in and save the day. Then you're not making a story about a terrorist attack, you're making it about a hero fantasy that uses a terrorist attack as a set piece. It's also just kind of cool from a Call of Duty storyline perspective that the biggest villain or most remembered villain from the franchise, Makarov, was originally intended to die here, but because of how they rewrote the level, he continued to be an antagonist through the rest of the game.
And that's also fair as well, because if they had written it the other way, he wouldn't have been there, and he wouldn't have the charisma he had originally either, because the shock value wouldn't be tied now to the character, because now you have a sense of menace to this character. He's now smart and cunning because he outwitted the player character. He's vicious and brutal because he was able to gun down fucking an airport full of innocent people. He's obviously vile because I just said he gunned down a airport full of innocent people, he makes up everything you need in an antagonist. And it's all conveyed perfectly in one mission.
Game and into Modern Warfare 3. And I'm sure their idea to have the players stop Makarov in this mission was... It's interesting that the level that introduced players to Makarov and established his evil throughout the rest of the franchise was also the level that the rewriting of it coincidentally allowed him to exist in the first place, at least as we know him.
Oh my god, I don't... Well, actually, I do care about the Ultras. I'll probably...
I know our odds.
Comes out in 2 days.
To make the level truly impactful than they would for a typical mission. For the NPCs, the devs needed to motion capture specific movements, including the civilians hiding and running in fear. Many of the motion cap and voiceover actors actually broke down in tears while recording their lines.
I could see that.
There was also the brutal decision to limit the player's movement speed to that of a slow walk. As I'm sure many of you played the game.
Oh yeah, they make you go slow, so you can fucking impact, like taking the impact.
Is disabled, forcing the player.
Because if you weren't able to look at what you did, what's the point, you know?
Massacre unfolds. And since the dev team abandoned their initial plans to make the massacre merely part of a standard mission, and instead leaned into the concept, making the carnage take place across the entire length of the airport, that slow pace is even more painful than it otherwise could have been. Even individually, some of the developers were conflicted, going back and forth on how to handle.
I think they should have sped it up just a little bit, but like still kept it like slow.
From the civilians, until his wife called out the decision, telling him it was a cop-out. Now that right there, that is a good woman. And not just to say, haha, more blood. Like I said, if you are making something that relates to real tragedies,
I would say,
don't
good
pull your
woman.
punches. If you have something to say it. Because any amount that you do to lessen the impact of it lessens the statement you're making about real-world violence.
Yeah, especially like if you're actually trying to say something, why would you make a half point instead of making a full point? Making a half point is only going to get half results, or only going to get half the resonance as a full point will get. I really need to apply that to my videos now that I think about it, because most of my videos are fucking half points that I try to turn into full points.
And you can even lessen it to a degree, like if they made the hero come in and save the day and everyone who died was just like pixels on a screen rather than something that felt like tangible pain, then you're making a joke out of something that matters. When it came time to QA test the game, multiple industry veterans who were brought in to play test the game simply refused to even play No Russian.
Really?
With the level,
I mean, I could see that.
On the
I easily could see that.
Developer estimates stated that about half of their QA testers chose not to fire a single shot during the level. Okay, I was gonna make a joke about how goofy it is for the initial QA testers to like pause the game and set down the controller because they refuse to play. But realistically, do you see how cool of a dynamic they've created? They have made a level so divisive that you have some people probably who play it normally, you have some people who walk through but refuse to participate, only witness, and you have some that won't even be.
As a game developer, to get those results in a test, I think I would be satisfied. I would be so satisfied because, like he said, it means you have now, you made something divisive. You made something that actually does say something.
Bear witness. All in a fictionalized event that you've put in a Call of Duty game. If you ever have a reaction that varied to something you make, you are on the right path. I think now, especially with video games, we're so kind of callous to pretty much anything.
I would be so
at the time
satisfied.
when there was still conversation about controversies and games being too violent, there's this window of opportunity where you could do something special with it. You could tell engaging stories that went there, that went too far in some cases. And Call of Duty certainly did that. And
I'm gonna plug myself here, just because I have made one thing in my entire game dev career that has been, it's a full point. I don't know if it's divisive. but I'm going to plug Money Farm here. And I've never plugged Money Farm ever. I barely advertised it. A lot of people don't like it. I've never met a person that did like it because it deals with suicide and it deals with the crushing reality of being in debt and not having a way out. And it deals with that topic without any of the floweriness, any of the attention seeking, any of that nature of it. It just shows the cruel reality of what it really is. And I would like to think that I had a similar reaction to that as they had to their game. I would like to think. Like I said, I've never met anybody that actually likes it. So I might have only gotten the back half of the reaction. Oh, by the way, one of the direct fucking reviews for the game is that if you have mental health, and I'll say it here too, if you do have mental health, don't play the game. Just don't play it. Just genuinely don't play it. It will trigger you. It's fucking, it's hard. And it's hard and it's boring. That's its real sin, is that it's boring. If I had made it more engaging and more actual, like if I had the experience I have now and poured it into it with the message I wanted to say, it'd probably be a 10 times better game.
And despite, again, where the series has gone now, I think it certainly earned its place. In regions outside the US and the UK, various bans and modifications were made to the game as a result of the level. In Russia, for example, Modern Warfare itself was supposedly facing a partial ban, but Activision removed the level entirely to avoid further issue. Which I guess in that game, if you don't even have access to know Russian, it's just like, we've got to go get Makarov, and then the next level stops, and it's like, Makarov has killed hundreds, and you're like, what? In Germany and Japan, to comply with local censorship laws and regulations, the player wasn't allowed to shoot civilians or the game would end. And despite how horrifying and tragic no Russians for some, the devs did seem to do their due diligence to reduce the amount of harm that came from it. First of all, players could opt out of the mission entirely.
Yeah, you can just straight skip the mission.
At the start of the
I do remember that.
Informed them that they could skip the mission at any time without penalty. There's also the option to skip the mission immediately before starting it. Which I also can't explain to you how insane that was to play like a mainstream video game for the first time, and a menu comes up that says what you are about to see is incredibly graphic, disturbing. Do you want to skip? I feel like a lot of games,
honestly, the fucking hype. Like, I get it's there for like people to like decide if they want to see it or not. But the minute that screen popped up, my little brain went, oh, we're in for it. Oh, we're in for it. Good, now. Let's see what you got. And we clicked yes, and we saw what they got, and it was great.
Even Call of Duty have recycled that afterwards to lesser objective to follow Makarov's lead.
Oh, fucking
Dungeon entrances in Top Heroes are super sneaky. At Sentry Tower, most players just grab the chest and leave.
At no point were players instructed to do anything, let alone shoot civilian single shot and without killing anyone. Granted, the end of the mission where the police are attacking would be more difficult to do unless you shot them. But if you just threw flashbangs and ran down the right side, you'd probably be fine. And also,
I was going to say, I ran through the entire mission and didn't do an entire shot. Like, didn't shoot once when I was a kid one time, and you can get through the entire mission without shooting.
What would you call the achievement for beating that level? What would you call the achievement for beating it on Veteran? Call of Duty always has cutesy names for their achievements. Why not this one? Also, could you imagine if they did put an achievement there and you were some kid who, like, their mom said don't play the airport mission, and you, like, get achievements through the whole game, but there's just that locked one staring at you, laughing. Now, a lot of what made No Russian so controversial was the general perception, which
What
brings
was
up a couple.
let me
Man, did
go
it
back.
hit the first time you saw it. And aside from the objective to follow
I didn't see
Makarov's
what they were
lead,
called.
at no point were players instructed to do anything, let alone shoot civilians, even in the game markets where this was allowed. You could complete the mission without firing a single shot and without killing anyone. Granted, the end of the mission where the police
You can
are
do it,
attacking
like
would
I
be
said.
more difficult to do unless you shot them. But if you just threw flashbangs and ran down the right side, you'd probably be fine. And also to make sure that no one lost out on the game other than story elements if they didn't want to play No Russian, there were no trophies or achievements associated with
There
the
just
level,
weren't any.
which brings up a couple points. What would you call the achievement for beating that level? What would
All right, what would I call it? Well, one, you could have just straight called it No Russian and been not creative about it. You could have gone with an achievement called Saintly Saints, where you got an achievement for not shooting a single person. You could have gotten fucking Satan's Little Bastard, or like, let's see. Oh, that's fucked. You could have gotten head count if you make sure you only get headshots throughout the fucking entirety of the level. Let's see. Oh god. What else could we do? What's another clever one? I feel like I got another clever one in me. Achievement for No Russian. Most of the ones that I can think of are like airport security check things. So like I'm thinking more like fucking like metal detector didn't go off this time, or like can't hide that in your shoe, or imagine if that was in a soap bottle, or like just stuff like that, like all those things that they like make you do while you're in line at the airport. Or you could have done what is it, flying high, I guess. You could have done shot through the heart for the end of the mission. Honestly, shot through the heart and you were to blame actually probably would fit that one really well. Let's see. You could have named it No English for the Russian version. Like named it No, like the achievement No English instead of No Russian. But yeah, anyways.
would you call the achievement for beating it on veteran? Call of Duty always has cutesy names for their achievements. Why not this one? Also,
Oh,
could you
for beating
imagine
it on
if they implemented
veteran?
achievement-
Oh, I didn't even think about for beating it on veteran. Oh, hard mode for gunning down innocent people. That was easy.
there, and you were some kid who like their mom said don't play the airport mission, and you like get achievements through the whole game, but there's just that
One.
locked one
Yep.
staring at you, laughing. Now, a lot of what made No Russian so
Oh, you
controversial
could have made it "Don't Tell Your Mom." Also, like doing the tongue-in-cheek thing, like referencing the controversy. You could have done that too.
was the general perception of video games at the time. Although plenty of games already contain deep, meaningful story arcs and mature themes, the general public largely consider them to be something for children, or at best, mindless entertainment. Most people at the time wouldn't have thought twice about a film or TV show depicting a terrorist attack on civilians, but partly due to the perception of what a video game should be, such a depiction was considered by many to be out of bounds. To them, Call of Duty wasn't the right place for thought-provoking points of view or challenging narratives.
Now, I think Call of Duty has had direct crossovers with the United States military, so I feel like calling them a possible psyop isn't that crazy. Like, actually.
But in
It'd
an
be like
interesting
saying,
way,
like, if
it was
Fortnite and Disney were in bed together is a conspiracy.
actually this very controversy that forced the non-gaming public to start seeing games as more than just a pastime for children. The conversation about what games are and what their statement games were, I'm not saying that Modern Warfare, but to a lot of adults who had no interest in video games up until then, this was the first thing they saw to make them think of video games as something more than just Mario or Donkey Kong. No longer were games
Yeah.
just
I was going to say, this
way for
clearly wasn't for
teenagers to pass
kids.
the time.
It literally had the M for mature moniker on it.
Where narratives had the ability to change players' perceptions on real-world issues, immersing you in the perspective of somebody else unlike any other form of entertainment. Because of this, many call No Russian a watershed moment for games, or at least the public perception of them. Now, given their
Watershed moment. I wonder what he means by
success
that.
with telling stories and
I don't
shaping
think I've heard
narratives,
that before.
it shouldn't surprise anyone that the rise of video games has also garnered the attention of good old Uncle Sam, aside from, you know, wanting to ban things. After all, the United States government is no stranger to using entertainment media.
Oh yeah, they love to ban it if they
Over
don't
the
think they
decades,
can
they have
control
worked
it.
hand in hand with Hollywood, placing ads on television and collaborating with movie studios to craft
I was gonna say,
messaging
fucking
that fits
Disney
their
and them were in
recruiting
bed
objectives,
hardcore together
tactical
for
pursuits,
propaganda.
and much more. Which explains why three-letter agencies
Hell,
like the
probably
DoD
still are.
and America's military would have great interest in using games to reach the masses and spread their messaging. After all, gaming revenue dwarfs that of the film industry. It's not even close. In 2022, for example, the theatrical box office brought in $26 billion across all films. That's pretty huge, right? In 1 year, one industry brought in $26 billion.
That is
right?
actually kind
That's
of insane. Like 26 billion for any industry is like fucking wild. Like actually,
Same
that's
here,
enough to make any capitalist fucking turn their head and go, well, what are we doing over here? I like the look of that. You like the look of that?
2022, the video game industry brought in $189 billion. Or in other words, over 7 times the amount of revenue that all of film brought in. And sure, while that number doesn't factor into home video and merchandising for these films, you can see why the US military-industrial complex has been so eager to use the massive reach of the gaming industry for its purposes. I mean, if we know the
You wanna call
military
it
and
that?
government are as involved with movies as they are, why would they not be involved in an industry that is 7 times that of movies? But is there any credibility to the idea of video games and the government or Department of Defense working together? Well, in the mid-90s, the United States Marine Corps modified a copy of Doom 2, which they called Marine Doom, to use as the training simulator.
Well, I feel like that's pretty fucking blatant if I've ever seen it. And that's before Call of Duty even. So, like, who's to say that they weren't already funding Call of Duty for, like, propaganda purposes?
Later replaced the original assets.
The only reason, like, people will argue with me on that is because they, like, yeah. Never mind. I'll just shut the
Environments
fuck
from the
up and
game
let
in
it
order
play.
to reflect more realistic wartime scenarios, and was meant to enhance the tactical decision-making and coordination amongst fire teams in the field. By 2002, the U.S. Army had developed a war game sim literally called American
Oh yeah, I literally just heard about this not long ago, and it's supposed to be really good. Like, it was so good it got like 2 or 3 sequels.
on Windows, Mac OS, Xbox, PlayStation, and would even become available on Android and iOS as a mobile game. The purpose of America's Army was twofold. The first was to give active military members basic training in weapons, tactical mission simulation, and team coordination, as well as situational awareness and decision-making. The second was to use the game as a recruitment tool and to build favorable PR with the general public. New and prospective recruits could also play the game before they enlisted, bridging the gap between civilian life and life in the Army.
Now imagine all of that without having to do the PR between the civilians and the Army, and then you got Call of Duty, you know?
Then there was Full Spectrum Warrior, released in 2004. The game was originally intended solely for training purposes, but was later adapted for a commercial audience. As with America's Army, Full Spectrum Warrior doubled as a PR effort for the U.S. military.
How much you want to bet the Full Spectrum Warrior was on the Spectrum?
To gain favor with Americans.
I bet his fucking favorite fucking flavor of crayon was blue.
a commercial success, selling over 1 million units across console and PC in just 2 years. It was positively reviewed and even received the Interactive Achievement Award for Innovation. So we know that in the early 2000s, the government was making video games for the purpose of training and straight up enlistment propaganda. So I'm sure after those were wildly successful, they just decided to quit doing it, right? They definitely didn't pour their funding into industries that were already doing it in order to accomplish the same thing only secretly, right? Perhaps what's most interesting about Full Spectrum Warrior is that it was co-produced by something called the USC Institute for Creative Technology.
Interesting.
But what was perhaps the most interesting about Full Spectrum Warrior is that it was co-produced by something called the USC Institute for Creative Technology
Didn't you just say that?
at the University of Southern California. Established in 1999, the ICT is a research center funded by the U.S. Army to develop VR, computer-based graphics, and artificial intelligence specifically to train and educate military personnel. So
I think I did actually hear about
is
that.
funded by the government, and that
I think I actually heard about that on the news when it was happening. Like, and they even displayed like the like how you can run and jump and everything in the simulation.
company makes video games that go to help the government and encourage support and enlistment in the government. But the relationship between the military and games doesn't end there.
Yeah, literally it looked like this for the military
The use of Xbox controllers,
simulation.
for example, is fairly prevalent throughout the American military and its allies. The Navy has been using these controllers to work critical parts of its submarines for
Oh, I
years.
did actually know
Soldiers in
that.
the Army
I
have been
did
photographed
actually
with
know
the
this
controllers strapped
also.
to their bodies, amongst the battle tactical gear.
It's
as they
considered one
operate
of the best
unmanned ground
controllers and
vehicles
one of the
and
most
drones.
reliable
And this
controllers
isn't
ever.
likely a
It's
coincidence,
why it's
given how
almost
familiar a
barely
large
fucking
portion of the
changed
service
between
members should be
generations
with these
also.
controllers. In a sense, they've been training for this all their lives. That one I think is pretty cool, and it seems intuitive. I've been playing on video games my entire life, so it would be nice if I was doing a job that was literally life or death and needed a controller, they would give me the same controller that I've been using for decades. But for this video, what is the
Yeah, I
connection
was
between
gonna
the
say
military,
that shit's
the
so
government,
instilled. Like, if someone handed me a controller and was like, pilot this aircraft, I could probably do it. As long as like everything is mapped the way it is on like a GTA game, we should be fine, and I should be able to land this thing. Like, we should be good.
and Call of Duty? Well, when it comes to COD specifically, there are multiple direct connections between the franchise and the U.S. military. I also want to clarify, I'm using military here kind of flippantly. Sometimes it's the Army, sometimes it's the Department of Defense. I'm just using military as a catch-all. Activision Blizzard and Treyarch have worked closely with the Pentagon, DoD, and various branches of the military over the years. Here's some examples. The Marine Corps is listed as collaborators for Call of Duty World at War. Dave Anthony
Oh. Yeah, there you go.
The Marine Corps is listed as collaborators for Call of Duty World at
I
War.
think that's pretty
Dave
fucking
Anthony, a writer
blatant.
and producer on Call of Duty, was recruited by a former Pentagon official and former DoD appointee to advise a think tank in Washington on the future of war. He's on record saying that Treyarch worked closely with military advisors for installments in the franchise to ensure that props and details were based in truth, and consulted with a lieutenant colonel on the story for Black Ops 2. He also worked with members of
Wait, I'm gonna go back. Says Anthony, I will never forget the stories he told me about the times he met the former Panamanian director, Manuel Noriega. There were so many details we could never have known about if it wasn't for his involvement. So he was directly involved with the government while working on Black Ops 2 to make sure that they were as close to, like, humanly possible to being military, like, to be as accurate as possible to the actual military. To the point that he even was, like, he met fucking, like, other foreign government officials.
and consulted with a lieutenant colonel on the story for Black Ops 2. He also worked with members of SEAL Team 6 and a Russian Spetsnaz soldier who wore mocap suits and contributed to lines of dialogue. In 2020, the Army sponsored Activision Blizzard's competitive Call of Duty.
Yeah, see, this is the one I remember. This is the one I actually directly remembered, where I was like, "Oh, so we're just fucking saying it now." Like they're directly in bed together.
Sports League, which that one is hilarious to me. The idea of the Army paying for a Call of Duty esports league. Because what is the Army if not super high stakes
Esports
Call of Duty
league.
esports? And the year before, in 2019,
It really
the Army
is.
sponsored and assembled an esports team comprised of 30 active duty service members out of 7,000 who tried out to boost recruitment numbers after the Army missed its recruiting goal for the first time in 12 years. Kids aren't willing to enlist and invade Syria? Start a new Facebook. It's also funny to
He's
imagine
not
someone
wrong
enlisting-
though. That's the fucked up part. And that's why I think it's a psyop. And it's like after you lay it all out there, it looks blatantly fucking obvious that it's a psyop. Like I know so many of my friends in school that not only played Call of Duty religiously, like I just said earlier in the video, like we were all there. We all duked it out on that battlefield. I know that they immediately, as soon as we got into high school, were in ROTC and were even talking about it with me, trying to fucking indoctrinate my ass. Like, oh yeah, dude, it's just like real life fucking Call of Duty. Like, and when we get into the real military, we already are ranked and everything else. So like we get a higher pay grade and everything. Like, just trying to sell that shit to me. Like, already fully brainwashed. But it worked. It worked so well. It's still working.
and then working really hard to be at the top of their team. And then they're like, all right, where are you sending me? And their command's like, Rust, 1v1, snipers only, no hard scope. Good luck out there, soldier. So, is Call of Duty a government psyop? Well, Call of Duty has between 90 and 100 million active monthly users worldwide. So it would stand to reason that the DoD would have the same interest in using this audio, as well as raise the public profile of the American military both at home and abroad. I think if you can make a case that movies and TV shows serve that purpose, then so do games. But when it comes to Call of Duty specifically, there have been several missions with real-world parallels throughout the game's history. Even in the recently released Modern Warfare 2, the very first mission bears striking similarities to the real-life assassination of Qasem Soleimani, an Iranian military officer killed by the U.S. in 2020.
Well, I think it's pretty obvious that they're just fucking putting military ops into the game. Like, so you can just... It's like when you train a football player, right? You run them through the playbook. You run them through the playbook over and over and over again. And as you add to the playbook, you add to the training. So if it is a psyop, then it makes sense to add more to the training, you know?
Soleimani. Not to mention that the Modern Warfare remakes absolutely love paralleling real-world events. Missions like Clean House are an example of no-knock raids. There are several missions where the set piece is a terrorist attack on public populations. And not to mention that one of the main antagonists is the US military, or at least General Shepard's involvement with it. And also, Shadow Company, but they're PMCs that do work closely with the US military. And it wouldn't be the first time that government agencies use video games in the course of their work either. Documents released by Edward Snowden revealed that the DoD, FBI, and CIA would monitor conversations and transactions of players, collected user data, chat logs, and other forms of communication in games like World of Warcraft and Second Life, believing terrorists could use these games to plan attacks.
Well, they didn't do a good enough fucking job, because I remember, what was it? There was something like they ended up catching them eventually, but I think it was because it was reported by actual players. But I think it was somewhere around like I'd have to actually look it up again. It was a lot of money, but like people were dealing drugs over PSN and Xbox Live, and it was happening for years, like literal years, and nobody was doing anything about it. And it was one of the safest places to actually get on there and like do that sort of thing.
But that's more NSA spying than it is actually worrying about video game content itself. For one, all the stuff about Call of Duty using real world military leaders and like real Spetsnaz soldiers in order to get the tactics right for the game, I think all that's cool. I think that's just creators and artists doing their due diligence to make sure they're doing something right. And especially with the OG Modern Warfare trilogy, it really pays off. And yes, while the military assists in several aspects of the video game being made, it seems that most of this is just so the equipment that's used and the tactics that are used are accurate in order to...
Well, yeah, it's so that way when they do things like sponsor your uh esports league or sponsor the game itself in general or give funding to it, it looks like it's like, yeah, it looks like they're doing one thing, but the real way to prove if it's a psyop is to see if the government is actually individually funding it, which there is no actual evidence or proof for, which is why it is a conspiracy and not pretty blatant. When you say that Call of Duty is researching and only using the military for research, well, then why are they funding their esports league? That's where I'm kind of like,
a skewed representation of the military, which I kind of have mixed feelings on, because on the one hand, yes, that could open the door to corruption, or perhaps the government trying to get their word in edgewise, trying to subtly get stuff into the game in order to, I don't know, drive favor for the military or whatever. But on the other hand, if you look at games they've assisted with, like Modern Warfare 2, that game has the main bad guy at the end as an American general. An American general, mind you, that betrayed you and is viewed as a hero to the United States. So if...
good storytelling. Like, you could easily, like, I could easily sit here and say that they're using it to, like, use it as, like, a cover to be like, oh, yeah, why would we be a psyop? Because we made the bad guy a U.S. general and everything. But, like, at the end of the day, it's just more interesting for the main bad guy to be a U.S. general than just be another terrorist organization. That's why. And if you want people to engage with your propaganda or engage with well, essentially what we're saying here is that Call of Duty is US propaganda to get young boys to join the military. If you want them to engage with your propaganda, it's got to be interesting.
Potentially the military has their hand in game developers' pockets in order to get their favor across, then I don't know what the game devs could possibly be doing that the military's not already letting them do. I mean, if they're just there to make sure that everything is accurate and it all looks up to snuff, then I think that's a good thing. And if things like General Shepard being the traitor and the bad guy of the game and no Russian getting through just fine are what the military censored, then what on earth were the original scripts? In conclusion, there's no doubt that video games have had a tremendous impact on individual lives and our culture as a whole, and Call of Duty specifically...
A good question, actually. It probably was things that actually painted the United States in a bad light. Like, shedding light on fucking, like, us doing, like, our own terrorist, like, fucking psyops and shit like that.
In that.
Solid Squad, DPS, Healer, CC.
Games make so much money, and in turn, the people who make and market those games dump an equally shocking amount back into them. Like anything else, the US government and military are all too happy to harness that size and that power, psychological wars, even in our own backyards.
Oh no, 100%.
Bedrooms.
I put nothing past
Wherever
our
you put up your
government.
Xbox. So is it a psyop? Potentially, probably. Do I care?
More than likely.
Not really.
And
if
yeah,
the psyop's
I don't care
objective
either.
is to make the military look good and something I want to enlist in.
If it's propaganda, it's good propaganda. And the minute it becomes bad propaganda, that's when you need to call it out. The only reason you know it's good propaganda is because it's working. And that's the biggest thing.
And then they've done a really bad job at that. But if it's teach me about the weapons and the soldiers involved, then they win, I guess. At the end of the day, I just want to drink a Code Red Mountain Dew, make my dad buy the 6-pack at the store so I have 3
Yep, same.
hours of 30 minutes of double XP lined up, and once again be happy and forget about my own approaching mortality. These are just a few of the things about Call of Duty that I think people forget about far too frequently. The games were impactful for a reason. They were so important.
They were stupid, dumb fun that you could engage with fast and with friends online. And it was one of the first times you could do that other than Halo 2. That's why it was so successful. That's genuinely why it was so successful.
Important then that it's one of the main reasons they're still talked about now. And if you never got to play them in their heyday and experience the good old days of Call of Duty like I did, then maybe you understand at least a little bit more what this was about. And if you're like me and just wanted to click on this video to hear about the good old times before you knew you were dying, then you're welcome. Of course, the most important
I did
thing is
half
that
click
you
on it for that,
appreciate
half click
and
on
we
it because
just
I was
wanna
wondering
say
where he was going
thank you
with
for
all
watching.
this.
Main channel video over the original trilogy is out by now, and the next trilogy, assuming that you all didn't hate that one, I'm recording this video before I post that first one over on the main, so if you all set the channel on fire and decided to kill me because of it, then I guess the second trilogy video won't be coming out, but hopefully that doesn't happen and I'm still posting.
Alright, I'm gonna stop him there before he keeps rambling. Holy shit. Okay. Hey, I'm gonna link the video to you guys. That was fun. Tell me in the comments down below if you believe if fucking or tell me in chat also if you believe that Call of Duty is a psyop used to indoctrinate young boys into the military.